The COVID-19 pandemic is still raging, and the global economy is in shambles. But perhaps the most significant change has been the war in Ukraine. This is the war which reminds that the world is still a dangerous place. Millions of people have been forced to flee their homes, becoming refugees or homeless, and more than 9,000 civilians have been killed. Is it a reminder that the forces of evil are still at work, and that we must never take peace for granted? The scale of the humanitarian crisis is staggering, with Europe facing its largest refugee crisis since World War II. And yet, the fighting continues. It's been more than 500 days since the invasion began, and there seems to be no end in sight. This is the Russian-Ukraine war.
War in Ukraine.
Russia-Ukraine war.
Ukraine still occupies, although Russia, of course, has claimed to annex.
Now had to face war.
In 1945, at the end of World War II, the Soviet Union occupied Bulgaria, Romania, Hungary, Poland, and Eastern Germany. Great Britain, the United States, France, and the Soviet Union divided Germany and Berlin into 4 occupation zones to be administered by the 4 countries. The Soviet Union was determined to establish governments in Eastern Europe who were friendly to the Soviet Union. While the war was still taking place, Soviet occupation troops assisted local communists in putting communist dictatorships in Romania and Bulgaria in power. Yugoslavia and Albania supported the rise of communist dictatorships in their countries. However, both of these countries remained outside of the Soviet sphere of influence. In 1949, the Communist German Democratic Republic was established in the Soviet-German occupation zone. The Soviet Union maintained its control over Eastern Europe through military force and political pressure. This led to the Cold War, a period of tension and rivalry between the Soviet Union and the United States. Churchill's speech may have been the first shot fired in the Cold War, which would last until 1989's. Consequently, the Soviet occupation of Eastern Europe in 1945 was a major factor in the independence of Ukraine. In 1991, the Soviet Union installed a communist government in Ukraine, which was repressive and corrupt. The Ukrainian people chafed under Soviet rule for decades, and they began to demand independence in the late 1980s. The collapse of the Berlin Wall in 1989 and the subsequent dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991 created an opportunity for Ukraine to declare independence. On 21 January 1990, over 300,000 Ukrainians organized a human chain for Ukrainian independence between Kyiv and Lviv. On August 24, 1991, the Ukrainian Supreme Soviet declared independence from the Soviet Union. Thus, the independence of Ukraine in 1991 was a major blow to Russian ambitions to maintain control over its former empire. Russia has long viewed Ukraine as a part of its sphere of influence, and it has been reluctant to accept Ukraine's independence. In 2014, the situation escalated dramatically when Russia annexed Crimea, a region in Ukraine. The annexation was widely seen as a violation of Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity by the international community. This event triggered a major conflict between Russia and Ukraine, commonly known as the Russo-Ukrainian War, or the War in Donbass. In the backdrop of Cold War tensions, the Soviet Union's expansionist ambitions collided with America's resolve, giving birth to the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, in 1949. This alliance, an unprecedented peacetime military collaboration for the United States, beyond its borders, aimed to counter the Soviet threat. As the NATO bloc solidified, European nations like Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Turkey sought refuge within its ranks to shield against potential aggressors, primarily Russia. Moscow, viewing NATO's proximity as a dire risk, saw its security compromised. Tensions escalated in 2008 when Ukraine aspired to join NATO, triggering a diplomatic crisis and highlighting the alliance's strategic impact. By 2022, Ukraine aimed for European Union and NATO membership, prompting Russia's vehement opposition. In a dramatic turn, Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022 was partly justified by thwarting its NATO aspirations. The ripple effects were profound. Europe's security landscape transformed as Sweden and Finland abandoned neutrality for NATO's security umbrella. Finland's accession in 2023, doubling NATO's shared border with Russia, symbolized nations' resilience against intimidation. The accession of Finland to NATO is a major blow to Russia. It not only doubles the alliance's border with Russia, but it also sends a message that Russia's invasion of Ukraine has failed to deter other countries from joining NATO. Irina Bialotserkovets, a Ukrainian model and TV presenter, gained international attention for her appearance on the cover of Playboy magazine, wearing a distinctive metal bikini and a heart-shaped eye patch. The mother of three was thrust into the spotlight when she, along with her children, was caught in a harrowing incident in Ukraine. While driving through a local neighborhood, their vehicle was targeted, sustaining several bullet hits. Tragically, Irina lost an eye and suffered scars during the attack. Following this ordeal, she underwent extensive reconstructive surgery in Berlin. What makes Irina's story particularly intriguing is her connection to a prominent political figure. This association raises questions about whether her attack was intentional, potentially stemming from her husband's role as a politician. Irina's journey from a model and TV presenter to a symbol of resilience reflects the broader crisis gripping Ukraine. The invasion launched by Russia had far-reaching consequences, displacing millions and creating a refugee crisis that spilled into neighboring nations. The conflict was triggered by a significant military buildup by Russia along Ukraine's borders. This escalated into a full-scale invasion, with Russian forces advancing into the eastern Ukrainian region of Donbass. In response, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky declared martial law and severed diplomatic ties with Russia. The situation escalated rapidly as Russian troops even captured the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, a move with strategic implications to deter NATO interference. The subsequent Battle of Kiev was a pivotal moment. Russian forces, aiming to swiftly install a Moscow-friendly government, captured key areas around Kiev, with a Russian paratrooper unit seizing Hostomel Airport just northwest of the capital. Notably, mercenary assassins from the Kremlin-backed Wagner Group were dispatched to eliminate key Ukrainian government figures. President Zelensky's steadfast refusal to flee his country, even when offered evacuation by the US, demonstrated his determination to confront the crisis head-on. While the initial Russian advance appeared ominous, Ukrainian resistance began to chip away at their momentum. Ordinary citizens played a crucial role, participating in improvised counterattacks using Molotov cocktails and even receiving firearm distributions. The conflict had significant geopolitical implications. International condemnation and sanctions were directed towards Russia for its invasion of Ukraine. The conflict persisted for over a year, causing extensive damage to Ukraine's infrastructure and economy. The war demonstrated Ukraine's ability to defend itself against a larger adversary. While sanctions did impact Russia's economy to a certain extent, they did not bring about widespread collapse or halt Russia's aggressive actions. As the world watched and waited for the conflict's resolution, it remained evident that the war had deeply scarred Ukraine, with the nation facing an arduous path to recovery. In a nutshell, this is the pulse of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, a tale of strength and upheaval. We're eager to hear your thoughts in the comments. Stay tuned to TruthThink by subscribing and hitting the bell icon, unlocking the next phase in the global chessboard shaped by the Russia-Ukraine war.